Greetings there. In this video I'd like to give some guidance on how to get the Infiltrator achievement in Welcome to the Game 2. Now I thought the best way to do this is to actually show myself playing while commentating, to show you how exactly I do it, and I talk about all the different steps I go through. So the very first thing is hang up on Adam, go to the 0-day market and buy Skybreak ASAP. Then all you want to do is go offline and immediately make your way down to the alley and grab Adam's remote VPN in order to generate 35 DOS coins, well, at some point. Now, I can only say that patience is the #1 thing you need for this achievement. And the Infiltrator achievement, to be clear, is you need to crack all Wi-Fis, which I believe are 37 or 38 crackable Wi-Fis there. You need to crack every single Wi-Fi in one run without using a continue or anything, or even dying. So, yeah. Now this, of course, takes quite some time, and I haven't seen any other video explaining on how to get this. So I'd like to, I guess, I don't know, be the first one. I just want to help people who still want this achievement and want some visual guidance. So I suggest you have a notepad. I provided a few spreadsheet, yes, a spreadsheet and a little notepad in the description for you to check out if you like a little bit of help. The Wi-Fi spreadsheet shows you some help with the WPA ports and the WEP port ranges, like the WPA injection amounts and the WEP ranges from where the open ports are, as well as every single Wi-Fi ID, except for, of course, for the BSS IDs, because they change every run. They change for every run. Now we want to wait for the in-game clock to reach 10:20 PM, because that is when the game autosaves for the first time. And okay, that's good. And once the game autosaves for the first time, we can check the local files on our computer for Welcome to the Game 2 to check all of the network informations. And this will make our job much easier when cracking Wi-Fis. But more on that later. For now, while we wait for 10:20 PM to arrive, and while we wait for to generate 35 DOS coins to buy the WPA upgrade on 0-day market, we'll just go ahead and and crack some normal WEP Wi-Fis, which is, well, very simple. This, of course, takes some time, but again, patience is key in this. This achievement can honestly take a 3-hour run at max, because then, well, it's game over. Also, you want to generate DOS coins using the remote VPN and not backdoor hacks, because we want to be online as little as possible to avoid activating the police or Lucas. We want the least amount of threats possible, which means we want to basically stay offline most of the time, except for when we buy something on the 0-day market, but that's really all we need. Alright, found an open port, so that's channel 8 and 726. And then we just change the probe to crack, there we go. Now, even if in the local files you can read every single password for every Wi-Fi in the game, it's not about the passwords, it's about the cracking process itself for the achievement to work. So you basically need to have this screen finished for every single Wi-Fi, and then you get the achievement. However, you should still write down the passwords for each individual Wi-Fi as a confirmation that you've actually cracked it. Okay, so this is the password for D59709. Let's check if it works. Worked like a charm, so let's scan and go for the next one. But yeah, this is basically what you want to do while waiting for 35 DOS coins and for the timer to reach 1020. Now, once the timer does reach 1020, an autosave will happen, and then we'll go and take a look in the welcome to the game local files, because, well, the first autosave file then will have been created. Also, don't be afraid to pause the game every now and then, because pausing the game also pauses the timer, which is great because you can take notes. Oh, that was quick. Crack, yes. Now the only real threat you can have in this whole thing is either the time or the noir, but honestly the noir should never be bothering you too much. Okay, also worked. So now let's move the dongle to somewhere else, and then also crack these Wi-Fis. Scan. Now, if you're also wondering about if we should buy the Wi-Fi level 2 or level 3 dongles, no, we actually don't need to buy them at all, because all they really do is give us the ability to see more Wi-Fis. However, all Wi-Fis already exist from the beginning, in fact. It's just that we can't see all of them. However, in the local save file, we can see all of them, absolutely all of them, including the two problematic ones, which are Hidden Network and Donald's Wi-Fi. These two networks you can actually only see using the local files, which is a little bug, actually, because they should be in the game, but Adam, the developer, messed up a little code there, and that's why you can't see them. And so you're forced to look into the local files or install some kind of obscure patch to be able to crack Donald's Wi-Fi and Hidden Network, which is a bit unfortunate, but yeah. Now also, we won't have to buy the WPA 2 upgrade, because you can actually crack WPA 2 networks using the WPA 1 upgrade. The only difference is that with the WPA 1 you once again can't scan or see all of the other networks, which is honestly not a problem because it only means that they are invisible. But if you look in the local files, you can write down all of the BSS IDs and then have no problem just copying and pasting their IDs into the game itself. This whole achievement actually isn't that difficult. It's just very, very time consuming, and it really tests your patience. But I'm sure you have the patience to do it. I believe in you. Spider-Man. Filter the Spider-Man. Alright. Now we've just surpassed 10:20 PM. So now would actually be a good time to check into the local files. But since I don't know how long autosave takes, I think it takes about 30 seconds or so. I always wait 1 or 2 minutes just to be sure. Yeah, in just a bit, I'll take a look into the local files and show you how you can find all of the BSS IDs, also using the Wi-Fi spreadsheet as a little help. So until then, we'll be right back, and I'll pause the game during that time. Now, having arrived at my desktop, I have 3 files here. This one is just a shortcut, but yeah, this is the Wi-Fi spreadsheet, this will be handy notes, and this is where your local app data will be saved. So let's go ahead and open this. Your local Welcome to the Game 2 files will be located in your username, then app data, local, Reflect Studios, Welcome to the Game 2, and then wttg2.gd. And this one you can open with programs like HexEdit and various others, but if you don't have any of those, don't worry. You can just open it with Notepad, and then you have this massive wall of text. And don't worry, this is not complete junk or a complete mess. What you want to do is look for names which are familiar. So let's press Control F to search and look for, I don't know, what do we want to look for? How about D5 9705? I think that's what, D59. Okay, can't find it. Alright, let's look for something else. Let's look for one of those passwords. Spider-Man, for example. Ah, there, we found something. So, that's how these BSS IDs are built. So, we've got Spider-Man over here, and now to the left of here of Spider-Man, which is quite funny sounding, we have the BSS ID of the network which uses the password Spider-Man. Now, we can confirm that the network called filter used this ID. So with that, we can check all of the other. We can check all of the other IDs, and then find out what passwords they have. And now I'll go ahead and open up the spreadsheet quickly. I highly suggest you use it. Now with this spreadsheet we can see every single Wi-Fi and also their IDs at the very left here. Now the Wi-Fi, which I believe was filter Spider-Man, has the ID or the sort number 33. This means that the ID that comes, or the this one over here, wait, not this one. This next BSS ID that comes afterwards will be the next ID chronologically, which means that what comes after filter, well, 34, and 34 is sudden link, which means that the BSS ID for sudden link is KP L11FJI4W, and the password will be Brazil actually. And using this very simple technique, we can easily check out every single BSS ID and password for each Wi-Fi. Now, just over here actually, just before Spider-Man, what's before Spider-Man? Or before filter rather? It's PWF. Now, okay, this is actually where there's a tiny mistake, I believe. Yeah, I think there's a tiny mistake here. Never mind. Anyways, sometimes in these in the spreadsheet you'll see an ID but no password following it, and that's because those are the networks which are open and don't use any password. Oh, sorry, sorry. I was a bit wrong here. Filter doesn't have the ID 33 and Suddenlink doesn't have 34. It's the ID over here that count. So sorry, so filter's ID 13 and Suddenlink is ID 14. Sorry, I had to clear that up. And from this you can actually see that the very first BSS ID, which is somewhere here, maybe we can find a password which looks familiar. You can search, yeah, this one. This was the password for, can you remember? It was D59709 and it was ID number 2. And this was the BSS ID for it. Now, what comes before that? What's ID number 1? ID number 1 is TP-Link, which is an open Wi-Fi. And it's this one right over here, because it's one ID beforehand. And there's no password or any word or anything familiar looking coming right after it, which is because it's an open network. So open networks obviously don't have a password, but you can still use this as some nice information to basically check which BSS ID stands for which Wi-Fi. So if we had to go one by one, this is TP-Link ID number 1, this is ID number 2, this is ID number 3, ID number 4, and so on. And with this you can eventually, if you write all of these down in chronological order, you can eventually find out which ID or which BSS ID works for Donald's Wi-Fi, and where is it? Hidden network, right here. And that's where the third file will come in handy, the Wi-Fi Notes, which I've made. It's basically all of the channels and all of the Wi-Fis with all of the different locations. All of the ones where I didn't put a channel are Wi-Fis which are open, so you don't have to worry about that. And this is where you can save all of your BSS IDs for yourself, so it's a little bit easier to keep track of which ones you've completed. You can also just go ahead and, if you're hacking, I don't know, ethical hacker, you can write your inject things while you pause the game. You can write your inject things over here, and then check the spreadsheet to see ethical hacker uses injection amount 83 with an injection cooldown of 3 seconds. So you can just write that down with the correct port, and the port in this case is, what is it? It's 2. What? Channel, sorry, I always say port. And then you can just copy that and then paste it into Welcome to the Game without wasting any time, because you paused the game. Very, very handy, and I suggest it if you are a bit short on time. Now I'd like to go over this spreadsheet again, just to show you a couple of things in case this looks very unfamiliar to you. So network name is of course the network name of what the network is called. Ping, I honestly have no idea. Maybe it's the ping and signal type don't really matter. Security, that's basically what type of network it is. WPA2, WPA, WEP, or just open. Location, I believe some of these locations are wrong, in fact. That's why I made my own notes, because I wanted to correct some things which are wrong in here. And there's also one network here, DOSNet, which is actually present on 2 locations, bed and balcony. Now the channels are actually always the same ones. Even if you play a completely different run or restart, it will always be the same ones, which means that you'll simply be able to use these nodes just like I do. WPA port range start and WEP port range end. This one I didn't use just now, but you can use it if you want to get through WEP networks quicker. It basically shows you all the possible ports that these WEP networks can have. So, for example, SSWIFI will always have the correct port between 260 and 300, making your job a lot easier and faster. Now this of course only exists for WEP networks. Now this is where it gets a bit more complicated. It's for the WPA networks, which there's a lot more. The injection amount, very important. The injection amount describes how many injections you can do at a time. So for example, for KPN Fun, if you go for 5 injections instead of 4, the network will crash, and then you'll have to wait, how much? 51 seconds before it restarts. And you really don't want to crash the networks. It eats up so much time and is just completely unnecessary. The injection cooldown is the amount of seconds before you can use the injection amount again. And those seconds will be counted once the injection amount you entered is finished. So for example, let's go with something different. Injection amount 54, and then you wait for it to count to 54. Blub, once it's done, you then have to wait 10 seconds. Once those 10 seconds are over, you can do 54 again. And this over here, the inject packet range start and end, this is just once again where all those, where the final ports will be located at. Some of those will be annoyingly high, such as between 890 and 990. Or they will be nice and low, such as 100 and 300. And everything over here, track rate and track probability, that's a different mechanic. It basically stands for how many in-game minutes, maybe in-game minutes or real-life minutes, I forgot, but I always, I play it safe and I go for in-game minutes. How many in-game minutes you can spend on one Wi-Fi before the police will track you. And the track probability is basically how high the chances for them to to swat you down once you exceed that timer. And then signal strength, I believe, is how fast a website loads. So 3 loads incredibly quickly and -2 loads incredibly slow. But all of these you don't really have to mess around with, just because they are for when you go online, and you really don't want to go online for this achievement. You want to stay offline for as long as possible to avoid activating any enemies. I can only recommend this Wi-Fi spreadsheet. It is made by someone named Ultramage, I believe. If I find who made it, then I'll link them in the description. It could also be Nasko. I have to check. But yeah, you should definitely thank them for this Wi-Fi spreadsheet, because it helped me out so much, and I hope it will also help you out. Now, as I'm buying the WPA upgrade for Skybreak, I'd also like to show off its ability to crack WPA 2 networks without seeing them, and I'd also like to show being able to crack Wi-Fi's which we can't see when scanning. So WPA and scan. Now, as an example, I'm going to use Ethical Hacker. I looked for its BSS ID in the files, wrote it down, and I've already written the whole injection process. So, Ethical Hacker uses this exact ID, and it shouldn't work because it's WPA 1 upgrade only, but it does work, and there we go. And you want to take full advantage of that. Now, Ethical Hacker has an injection cooldown of 3 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for good measure, and then continue. And its open port should be around 660 and 840. 1, 2, 3, 4 for good measure. That's basically the process of cracking WPA and WPA 2 networks. Now sure, WPA 2 networks still take a little bit of more time than WPA, just because the injection amounts are smaller and the injection and the open ports are a bit higher. But hey, that's what makes the achievement so difficult. Power outages are still a thing, but again, the worst they can do is steal you like maybe 30 seconds, and then everything is back to being normal. That's basically the whole process you want to go through in this achievement, to constantly inject stuff, write stuff down, and well, in the beginning, after 1020, slowly write down all of the BSS IDs and write them down in a folder. And then you just want to keep track of which Wi-Fi's you've hacked. Once you've cracked all of them, well, you should get the achievement, and everything should be nice, neat, fine, dandy-do. I'll be linking most useful information in the description, and I'll also thank some people who, well, contributed to all of this knowledge, which I'm very thankful for. So now, we found it, crack, and there we go. We are now with only WPA 1. With the WPA 1 extension, we are now cracking a WPA 2 Wi-Fi Ethical Hacker. And, well, let's see if it works, shall we? Okay, Ethical Hacker has been cracked, password found, horses. Now, just to confirm if that really is true, horses. There we go, worked like a charm. So yeah, you don't have to buy Skybreak WPA 2 libraries, and you also don't have to buy backdoor hacks. But it's completely up to you how you want to structure your process of getting this achievement. This is just the method I use. So back to desktop Michael. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can really say for this achievement. I wish you good luck on completing it, and hope that you yourself will complete it at some point. Just take your time, patience is key, remember not to crash any Wi-Fis, don't go online very much, and just take your time to crack every single Wi-Fi. Write down the passwords, write down the BSS IDs, and if you need help, you can check out a Steam guide on Steam made by Ultramage called, well, Infiltrator Achievement Guide. It's basically the one that helped me the most, and I would also say inspired me to make this video. But yeah, I wish you good luck in infiltrating all the networks, and goodbye, and have a great time, everyone.